Benagil Cave Portugal looks magical online, but the real experience surprised me. This is one of the most iconic natural landmarks in Algarve Portugal, famous for its dome-shaped sea cave, the massive circular hole in the ceiling, and the hidden sandy beach glowing under natural sunlight. In this video, I will show you exactly how we visited Benagil Cave from Lisbon in one day, what the boat tour was really like, how much we spent, what you should avoid, and whether this famous Portugal cave is actually worth visiting. On the fifth and final day of our Portugal travel itinerary, we woke up early in Lisbon and started driving south toward the Algarve region. This was not a quick city escape because Benagil is located deep in southern Portugal, so we knew from the beginning that this would be a long travel day. We followed the A2 motorway and then continued through the connecting roads on the Algarve side, and after around 3 hours, we finally arrived at our first stop of the day, Benagil Beach. Before arriving, we had already booked our 45 minutes Benagil Cave tour through getyourguide.com for €20 per person. I think booking in advance was a good decision because Benagil Cave is one of the most popular Algarve places to visit, especially during the busy travel season. If you are planning your own Algarve Portugal travel guide route, I would not leave this tour completely to the last minute. One useful detail about our tour was that people who booked it could park their cars for free in a parking area around 4 or 5 minutes on foot from the beach. After parking the car, we started walking downhill toward Benagil Beach Portugal, and this was the first moment where I realized how famous this place had become. Tourist groups were walking in the same direction, and as we got closer to the beach, I started noticing restaurants, cafes, and small boutique hotels built into the slopes around the area. When we finally reached Benagil Beach, the atmosphere was much busier than I expected. There were cafes on the beach, ticket cabins for water sports, boat tour operators calling people for their departures, and crowds moving in every direction. Hundreds of visitors were waiting for kayaking or paddleboarding. Some people were sunbathing, others were swimming, and many were trying to find the right line for their Benagil boat tour. Before our boat tour started, we had some time to walk around the beach and take in the atmosphere. Benagil Beach is beautiful, but this is definitely not a hidden Portugal beach anymore. If you imagine a quiet coastal escape where you peacefully enter a secret cave, the reality may surprise you, because during busy hours, Benagil feels more like a coastal adventure hub full of kayaks, boats, paddleboards, and tourists. A short time later, our boat returned from its previous trip and came close to the shore. We got ready to board for this 45 minutes Benagil Caves boat tour along the coastline, and the excitement started to build because the famous cave was finally just a few minutes away. For safety, the crew handed out life jackets to everyone, and then we left Benagil Beach behind and moved into the open water. Even though every small cave in this area does not have a separate famous name, I will try to explain the Portugal caves we visited one by one. Our first cave was located immediately to the left side of Benagil Beach when looking from the sea. It was an easy cave for boats, kayakers, and water sports visitors to enter, and it gave us our first real look at the golden limestone formations that make this coastline so dramatic. After our captain gave us some information, we quickly continued toward the second stop, which was the real Benagil Cave. This is the most famous landmark in the region, and for many travelers, it is almost a postcard image of Portugal Algarve. As we approached the entrance, we saw several super luxury yachts waiting in front of the cave, and our boat slowly moved forward while we waited for our turn to enter. After a very short wait, we entered the cave, and suddenly the whole space opened up in front of us. Even though I had seen Benagil Cave many times online, seeing that circular ceiling hole above us in real life still felt special. The sunlight entered from the top, the hidden sandy beach glowed inside the cave, and the curved rock walls made the place feel like a natural cathedral carved by the ocean. This was the most beautiful moment of the tour, but also the moment where I understood the reality of visiting Benagil Cave. You do not stay inside for a long time, and on this type of boat tour, you usually cannot get out and walk on the sand. The crew helped each guest take photos with the cave in the background, but the stop was very quick because many other boats were waiting to enter. For a first-time visitor, The Benagil Cave boat tour is probably the easiest and most exciting way to see the cave. But if your dream is to spend a long time inside, walk on the hidden beach, or experience it slowly, a standard boat tour may feel too short. If your goal is to see Benagil Cave, take photos, enjoy the coastline, and continue exploring other nearby caves, then the boat tour still gives you a very good introduction. After leaving Benagil Cave, we continued our journey by passing Kayakers and the impressive Arco da Praia da Corredoura. This part of the coastline reminded me that Benagil is not just one cave, but a full natural gallery of sea caves, arches, rock formations, and hidden beaches. You can really understand why kayaking is one of the most popular activities here, because being closer to the water probably gives you a more adventurous and personal perspective. Just after passing the beach, we entered another cave with a very low opening, and everyone had to lower their heads as the boat moved inside. From the outside, this cave looked quite small, but once we entered, it felt deeper and more atmospheric than I expected. Inside, some kayakers were taking a break, resting in the shade, and cooling down away from the strong Algarve sun. Immediately after that, we entered another nearby cave with a similar atmosphere. Again, we saw many visitors joining kayak tours, and at this point the coastline started to feel less like a single attraction and more like a complete adventure route. This is why Benagil Caves are such a major highlight for anyone interested in Portugal beaches, natural scenery, and sea cave landscapes. After a short ride, we reached the area known as Gruta dos Algarinhos, a natural sea arch and rock formation. Although from the boat we could not see every detail clearly. What really caught my attention here was a rock formation above us that looked like a crocodile sitting on the cliffs. I had seen something similar in Malta before, so I jokingly told the captain that maybe some of these formations looked a little too perfectly shaped to be completely natural, and that created a funny moment inside the boat. Eventually, we arrived at another important landmark of the region, Arcos Naturais da Praia da Mesquita. These natural sea arches rising from the water looked very cinematic, almost like a film set created by the ocean. With the turquoise water, golden limestone cliffs, and dramatic arch shapes, this was one of the most visually impressive moments of the whole Benagil Portugal boat tour. Right next to this area is Praia da Marinha, one of the most famous beaches in the Algarve and one of the most visited coastal spots in southern Portugal. Even from the boat, you can understand why Praia da Marinha is often included among the most beautiful Portugal beaches. If you have more time in the region, I think combining Benagil Cave with Praia da Marinha would make the day feel more complete. After this final section, our captain started driving back at full speed toward our starting point at Benagil Beach. On the way back, he added a bit of speed and movement to give us some adrenaline, and it made the final part of the tour more fun than a simple return ride. For a 45 minutes tour, I think the route was well organized because it was not only about Benagil Cave, but also about seeing several different parts of the coastline. When we got close to the shore again, I immediately noticed that the crowd on the beach had almost doubled compared to 45 minutes earlier. The water was full of kayaks and paddleboards, and at some points, it looked like the paddles were almost hitting each other because nobody had enough space to move properly. This was the moment where the dream version of Benagil Cave and the real tourist version of Benagil Cave met each other. After getting off the boat, we stopped at the beach cafe to cool down and bought some cold drinks. Then we walked back to our car and continued our Algarve day trip toward our next destination, Faro. For us, Benagil Cave was the main highlight of the morning, but if you are driving all the way from Lisbon, I think it makes sense to see more of Algarve instead of coming only for one cave. Now let me summarize what we actually spent, because real costs are one of the most important things to know before planning a Portugal travel day like this. We were 3 people and we rented a car for 60 euros per day. During the day, we used around 80 euros of fuel, so our transportation cost came to around 45 euros per person. The 45 minutes Benagil Cave boat tour cost us 20 euros per person. So before food, drinks or any extra activity, our basic cost for transportation and the boat tour was around 65 euros per person. At Benagil Beach, a simple budget-friendly lunch can be around 10 euros, a more mid-range lunch can be around 20 euros, espresso is usually around 1 euro, and more specialized coffees are around 2.5 euros. If you want a more active experience, kayak rentals are usually around 25 to 35 euros for about 1.5 to 2 hours in Benagil Beach. Kayaking can be a great way to experience the coastline more closely, but you need to be comfortable with crowds on the water. From what I saw, the kayak area can become extremely busy, especially later in the day. If you want to visit Benagil Cave on a lower budget from Lisbon, renting a car is not the only option. A Lisbon to Faro return trip with Flixbus can be around 20 euros, which is much cheaper than renting a car, but you still need to calculate how you will reach Benagil from Faro. This option may work better for solo travelers, but it requires more planning and more patience. Another option is joining a 12 hours Algarve and Benagil Cave tour from Lisbon, which usually costs around 90 to 120 euros per person. This is more expensive than the bus, but it can be easier if you do not want to drive, search for parking, organize local transfers, or manage timing yourself. For many first-time visitors, this may be the most stress-free way to see Benagil Cave as part of a full Algarve Portugal day trip. If you are already staying in Faro, joining a Faro to Benagil Cave tour can be another practical option. These tours usually cost around 50 to 60 euros per person, depending on the company, season, and what is included. For travelers already based in Algarve, this can be a much easier way to visit Benagil Cave, Praia da Marinha, and nearby coastal highlights without driving long distances from Lisbon. If you are traveling as a family or a group of 3 or 4 people, renting a car can be the best option because the cost is shared and you get more flexibility. If you are a solo traveler, a bus plus local transport or a guided tour may be more practical. If you do not like driving long distances in another country, I would seriously consider a guided Algarve tour from Lisbon, instead of trying to do everything independently. If I visited Benagil again, I would arrive much earlier in the morning to avoid the biggest crowds. I would also try to combine the boat tour with more time around Praia da Marinha, because this coastline deserves more than a quick in and out visit. And if the sea conditions were good and the area was not too crowded, I would consider kayaking for a more personal and adventurous experience. One of the biggest mistakes is thinking Benagil Cave is a peaceful hidden gem where you will be almost alone. Another mistake is arriving late in the day, because the beach, parking area, boats and kayaks can become extremely crowded. Also, do not expect a standard boat tour to give you a long stop inside the cave, because the visit is usually quick and controlled due to the number of boats entering and leaving. Book your tour in advance if you are visiting during a busy period. Bring sunscreen, water, sunglasses, and shoes that are comfortable enough for walking down to the beach and back up to the parking area. Also, protect your phone or camera from water, because even on a boat tour, splashes can happen, especially when the captain adds a little speed on the way back. So, is Benagil Cave worth visiting? For me, yes, but only if you visit with realistic expectations. The cave is beautiful, the coastline is impressive, and the boat tour is a fun way to see several Algarve coastal landmarks in a short time. But it is also crowded, touristic, and the actual time inside the cave is very limited. I am happy we visited Benagil Cave, especially because it was our first time exploring this part of Portugal. But I would not drive 3 hours from Lisbon only to see the cave and immediately return. If you are coming all the way to Algarve, turn it into a proper day trip by adding places like Praia da Marinha, Faro, or other nearby coastal stops. My honest advice is simple. Do the Benagil Cave boat tour if you want an easy, scenic and fast way to see the coastline, but do not expect a private or peaceful experience. Choose kayaking if you want more adventure and closer contact with the water, but be ready for crowds. And if you are planning a full Portugal itinerary, remember that Benagil Cave is beautiful, but the Algarve is much more than just one famous cave. That was our real Benagil Cave Portugal experience from Lisbon, including the boat tour, the crowds, the costs, the coastline, and my honest opinion. If you are planning a trip to Portugal, make sure to watch my other Portugal travel videos as well, because I share real itineraries, prices, mistakes, and practical tips from our full journey. If this video helped you, please like it, share it with someone planning a Portugal trip, and subscribe to Alp Gallup Travels for more honest travel guides around the world.